one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. To open the meeting with Savage Race special permit. I have a package that shows public health and public safety departments have all signed off with either a couple comments or as is. And the building department approved it based on the temporary structures, et cetera, that come into play. So I don't know if anybody has what your thoughts are on this. Now this is one of your medium size, right? This isn't the big one that normally comes in, right?
Right. Spartan Race, we were not able to get the contract for
Oh.
because of the extra things that Barry, mainly the building department. Speaking to Spartan Race, they have to spend an extra $10,000 in Barry because the building inspector has the discretion to require certain things. And the building inspector is requiring them to have all 35 obstacles. An engineer from the state of Massachusetts sign off on all of them. And Spartan goes all over the country, all over the world, and it seems Barry is the only place that they have an engineer stamp. But each one of these companies, some are from Florida, some are Boston, but they travel all over the country. But the Barry building inspector requires a state of Massachusetts stamp on it. So I checked around a little bit, and I'm like, why is this? They weren't required in Rutland, and they weren't required in Charlton too. And I spoke with the building inspector in Charlton, and he said it's up to the discretion of the building department. But the way he felt, if you're not carabinered in and it's not a permanent thing, that it wouldn't be required by the town. But Barry requires it, and it costs an extra $10,000 for the company to hire a Massachusetts engineer for that one race. And all the companies, she's requiring that to happen. So I don't know how really to address that problem, but I'm just making you aware. I was not able to get the contract with Spartan because of it, but I did get the contract with Savage.
All right.
So just to make you aware of that, I don't know how to remedy the problem. In my opinion, everyone signs a death waiver to go in these races, and to have a Massachusetts state inspector is a little out of the norm, I think.
Okay.
But I'm here to answer any questions about the Savage race that's coming up in July.
Do you have any questions, Greg?
Well, the other towns do have the building inspectors sign off on it, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. And that's gonna be the caveat. If we didn't have her sign off on it, then we're up, and we're putting ourselves culpable for anything because we didn't protect people.
Yep.
Once it's in the commissioners, or building inspector, building commissioners ballpark, we can't tell her how to inspect any more than we can tell the chief of police how to police.
Right.
So your appeal process would probably be to the Board of Building Regulations if you wanted to take it up with someone. Because I don't think we have any right to dictate anything to the building inspector.
I think it's less of a dictating. It would be having a discussion to see what's the
Is there any
situation
leeway?
and, right.
Because these things are out of the norm, especially, the first one we had, nobody really knew how to treat it. But it just so happens that we're a little more strict than other towns, and that's hurt the business. And that does bring in a lot of business into the town. A lot of business.
It does. I mean, I know my experience, for me, it's one of those, I can definitely understand drawing the line for anything that would be considered a permanent structure. But I do understand maybe there's that gray area where it's worth asking her to just give us a heads up, let us know what's up. not necessarily, it's not a dictating, it's not a pushing, it's not a threat of her position. That's not what I mean at all. It's just, where you coming from? What's the purpose? Why is a mass
Right,
stamp
I
more critical than another engineer in a temporary structure?
If there are engineered anywhere, that would, I would think, should make anyone happy, but the concern should be more of the constructions, which you should be looking at. If you've ever tried to build a wooden swing set, maybe you have, maybe you haven't, very difficult to make a structure that's meant to have people playing on it, moving on it, swinging on it to be stable. And to build structures of this size with a large number of people, thousands of pounds of people in motion on the structure, it's a challenging build. And it does have to be constructed properly and carefully to work.
They
Now,
all have engineers stamps on.
And obviously, right, it would, I think if they're engineer stamped, it would be certainly reasonable just for the inspector to make sure that they are assembled as per the engineer
It's
requirements.
the specific Massachusetts one.
Yeah, I don't understand that, but it's,
In everyone's
Massachusetts has almost no reciprocity, so you have to come in and get your Massachusetts stamp.
So they have to hire a special engineer for one race in Massachusetts. See, because like Savage, they go to 10 different states. And Massachusetts, requires their specific engineers.
the strange thing is if they had the engineer stamp for a certain build, that should be indefinitely good for the build.
Right.
So they shouldn't need to reapply for those stamps once they have them unless they change the builds.
I mean, a lot of times the building inspector might require something, or you might require something, and it seemed like a good idea at the time, but you didn't really know what the cost of that is.
Mhm.
But I'm just making you aware of the cost, and it was enough to lose a contract.
Okay. No, I appreciate it. Regarding the Savage race, one is, from my opinion, it's become routine. We haven't changed the layout from previous years. It's pretty much the same course, or did it change this year?
It varies a little, but where all the crossings are, it's the same.
Okay.
But yeah, it's pretty much the same as last year. And the chief has done an incredibly good job with these things. We've learned over the years, we've had some really bad weather, and it's worked out really well. But the chief does a great job. It's a good thing for the police department to get some overtime, and they can make some money on it. And I just think he's doing a great job with the whole event.
Okay. Do you have any thoughts on that? Well, never mind.
Refraining from.
Understood.
But I'll make a
You
motion.
can
we-
officially state that you're recusing yourself from the discussion, just so that the general public knows why.
Yeah, I'm recusing myself from the discussion as I work for, so, and Carter Stevens Farm.
Make a motion, we approve the permit for the Savage race.
I would second that, but I would only modify it in this case, because we don't have any official response from Planning Board and Conservation Commission. And knowing the Planning Board is meeting tomorrow, and they may have received it the day of their last meeting, like it was close to it.
When did we receive it? May 21st? That would be not before that. This is
That's
the
their
comments.
comment. This is the police
When did we
department.
receive it?
The actual permit, May 6th.
May 6th? Okay, then that will wait a little while, okay, hasn't been a full month.
The
All right,
only thing I would make the motion on is to go ahead and approve it.
pending the sign off from the Conservation and Planning Board. Does that sound better? As long as it's done within the next meetings.
Well, that you would follow through with if they had any comments. But you have the right to appeal back to the Board of Selectmen if you completely disagree and think the comment is over the top. In other words, if they came and said you gotta completely change this obstacle to over here,
Okay,
and
so
that doesn't work because nobody else has seen that over here, then maybe we need, do you follow what I'm saying?
I will
I don't wanna
restate the
just say
motion.
a wide open, they can say anything they want.
I
They need to be
move
reasonable.
to approve the Savage race permit pending the opportunity for the Planning Board and Conservation Committees to have their next meeting and comment on this.
Yes.
And as long as those comments are agreeable, I would so move we accept it.
I'll
If not,
second that motion.
we'll come back. Okay.
And
Call
their
for a
meetings
vote.
are when?
Planning board's meeting tomorrow. Conservation Commission wouldn't meet for another week because they alternate weeks. Which tells me that the Conservation Commission probably has already reviewed this and just hasn't gotten back to Andrew because they had almost a week, I guess, from the time Andrew distributed to all the boards before they had their next meeting.
We're not waiting for comment, we're giving them an opportunity to comment at the meeting.
But exactly, this would be considered approved, but since it's not happening until July, they still have a chance to come to you and say, hey, could you do this or could you do that? And if it's agreeable and reasonable, then we just move forward with it, nobody has to worry about it.
Yeah.
If it's not, then come back to us and we'll work with the other boards to figure out if we've got to revise our original approval.
Yeah. So was it talked about at the conservation or?
We didn't receive any comment from them. I wasn't at any of their meetings to.
So you- They may have discussed it.
Right. I haven't,
You don't know.
they haven't alerted me to any issues.
Yeah.
I would have pushed it through, but I try to give it a full month, and we haven't had that yet, so I'd wait.
Okay.
I'm getting, you know me, I don't like these in the first place, I understand we need them. I want us to still make a policy that gets voted on by the town to put this in effect in full and official, rather than be operated as a policy as we still operate it as. So I think we give them a month to respond is sufficient time.
Very good.
But they haven't had it yet, so we'll still wait.
Okay, thank you.
I'm saying aye?
All right?
Okay. Thanks, Phil.
Yep.
Next item would be the, what do we call this thing with the BLA? The title of this document is a use and occupancy agreement. Feel free to come on up.
Okay, I'd rather come up this street, across the room.
You don't like to exercise your lungs, huh?
We have was it two? Add the floor plans, which I saw are in here, and then the
There's some language changes in a couple
five
things I asked
thousand
about.
or one on the capital
Right,
versus
Yeah,
operational.
5,000 was added as the capital limit.
right, that was under number
Yep.
2. Floor plans.
Recording of the deed.
All right.
Oh, yes, right, that was at the end, right? Yeah, number 23.
Yep. Nice. Perfect. Either of you have any questions? Where did we put that clause in for the capital?
Where did we put it?
Yeah.
Occupancy fee.
Number 2.
Number 2.
Next to it, sentence.
Works for me. Thank you very much.
Do you have any questions about the floor plan, since that was new? We included them.
I do have colored versions if I just
Yeah.
printed off on mine.
I'm fairly comfortable with this.
Yeah.
I don't have any other questions. guess what I would ask is the Founders Museum the only BLA space only?
No. Barry Gazette Room, which is next to attic
Okay.
storage. And then there's this little teeny closet space.
Closet space on top of the stairs.
Kind of hard to tell with the grays, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I
Right.
All right. I know I could go back to Andrew and say, yes, you're right, the color would have made a difference, but we'll have a color in the original
Yeah, if you need
pipe.
to know.
That works for me. I appreciate it, I just think it's defined now, and that's
Yeah,
much easier
no,
for,
that's a Great idea.
In the recitals, it does state the town is represented by the Board of Selectmen, which clears up the only concern of, and they're saying the town could have meant town meeting.
oh, right.
So it's,
Mhm.
that's in the recitals now,
Mhm.
so that clears up any question of that, which is my only real concern in that part. So. You ready for motion?
I am, if nobody has any further questions.
I'll make a motion that we enter into the use and occupancy agreement with BLA and
Trustees.
the trustees, thank you, as we have it in front of us.
I second that motion.
Call for a vote?
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
So,
Yeah, you just sign the ones that you have.
I'm gonna write in 31, May 31, just because
uh-huh.
Mhm.
we have May written, so let's get as close as possible.
So which, do we sign something?
It says that one master.
Yeah,
Looks
We'll
like
use the
there's one
same-
representative
yeah.
Oh,
from
that's
each
it?
group.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
So just whatever one he signs will be the master, so.
Yeah.
that's the master copy.
So if you want all three.
If you want to sign 3 copies, you all
I
have a
forgot, it's
copy,
just
and
a
make,
chair. No, no,
you
that's
make 3
fine. No,
originals,
no,
but, you get what I'm saying, you can make 3 originals, and then everyone has one.
Just like the last page, I wrote the last day of June.
Andrew, if you could just copy whenever this is all.
Yeah,
done.
no problem.
Oh, yeah, the last page.
Yeah, the last page.
Well,
says-
that's right, it is June.
Yep. So,
So you get the-
I'll just replace the front
Third?
page to replace May with June.
Okay.
That's fine.
Yep,
Second, June 2nd.
third.
Third.
Thank you.
Third today, yeah.
I knew it was second.
That was about as quick as that could go. I mean,
It
overall.
helps You've done the due diligence already.
It's the first time in the history of the library that this agreement has
It
happened.
only took 12 years to do it. That's
Well, I mean, we've been in existence since, what,
86.
So,
As we said last time, long overdue.
doing well, doing well.
It's nice to have an agreement that works, but to put it in, in documents makes it enforceable and makes everyone at ease with their position in it. I think it's just smart, so.
Should be a celebration.
I was gonna say, we should at least shake hands.
Thanks to
I can do
Andrew
that.
for really facilitating this and making it very easy
Yeah.
to get through this entire process.
Yes, thank you, Andrew.
Yes.
Good job.
Thank you.
These things don't just materialize out of nowhere.
No.
Someone's actually got to draft it and pay attention to both sides.
Yeah, the Library Association really, was so helpful because they were the ones who funded getting this original document going that we were able to work from, so.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
everybody came together as a team. It would have been
It's been working that way, it's just may as well document it. Makes it clear,
Now you
no
can't
no
have somebody
misgivings or
threaten you for no
misunderstandings.
reason.
Yeah, thank you guys for working with me on this. It was fun.
That's fun,
Yeah.
actually. When you work as a team, it is fun.
Yeah.
Well, I do want to say thank you and
Thank
shake
you
your
very
hand.
much, I appreciate all your
you.
support.
And you
Dylan?
too. Thank you very much.
We'll get there.
Yeah, and I want to thank your name.
For those that don't know, Stephanie has submitted her I'm leaving papers,
Mhm.
but she's gonna stick around a little while to help with some transition. And so we'll be actually approving, hopefully, an acting director this evening. but she's gonna stick around for another month to at least help pass that transition on. For all the time she's put in, though, I'd like to say thank you, and the hard work you've done for the library.
My pleasure to work for the town of Barry for so many years.
Shame to lose you.
Thank
Thank you.
Where's Stephanie going?
Private sector for a little while.
Good night.
Have a good one. Thank you for coming out.
You're welcome.
All right. Who's here for what? Go ahead, Sam.
Just a question in regards to what just happened. Is Stephanie going to a private sector because Barry doesn't compensate sufficiently? Or is she going to a private sector for other reasons?
My brief conversations, we haven't done an official exit interview, have we? Is it's multi-factored. It's not just the pay scale, although I do understand that the pay scale is definitely lower than it should be compared to similar communities. Or the market, let's put it the market rather than, because we do our best and we make sure we meet the minimum funding for the library to keep our grant from the state. But it also means that in order to do that, we're not able to pay as much to the director because we just can't put that much more in and above that minimum. Claire knows more about where we're at with the minimum and how much more we might.
Are we losing a valuable, long-term employee that we could have had we'd been able to come to a different level? You know, couldn't,
It's possible,
Possibly,
but
yeah.
like I said, she also mentioned some other factors when it comes to where she's living, where she wants to live, things, the job opportunity that was presented. So I don't want to say just raising the salary would have been enough to keep her. But I know it was a factor.
valuable people who've been here a long time, as she, and who've been dedicating herself like she has been all these years, are very hard to duplicate.
I agree. I agree very much with that.
Just like everybody who works for the town of Barry. People who are passionate, and they have to live, and if they can't afford to live on a salary, then Barry has to think twice about why, that's all.
I do know that I've had my own discussions with Andrew. I'm sure Greg and maybe Dylan hasn't yet, but we've talked about that. Individually and as a whole of all the people that work. It doesn't matter what level you are, whether you're the truck driver, laborer for DPW, or you're the water operator. It's hard for us to compete with their labor rate. And we're trying to work it up, but we also understand that we can't race up so fast that we don't have the money to pay for it. So it's been a hard balance. I'm hoping that some of the recent businesses in town and things like that that are starting up again will help with revenues. But until that time comes, it's really difficult for us to just jump them up. I mean, when we're paying people less than what the federal government is proposing for minimum wage, it's not gonna be easy. We're gonna have to make a market correction at some point, that's all.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's my opinion. I'm not speaking for Greg and Dylan.
It's difficult, especially for labor jobs. You have jobs at DPW, we want to keep laborers, but there are several large companies that hire, as my son's gone to work for, it's starting him at $20 an hour, and he's already making 23 or 24 in a couple of years. Very hard to compete if they get some experience, working on those basic, tasks to keep them away from those better paying private sector jobs. You can't do that without raising more revenues, which means finding more tax base someplace, which we don't have, and we don't want to raise to do it, so it's difficult.
Yeah. But your point is taken. Do you have something else right now, or no? Okay. Um,
I didn't plan on saying anything, I just was kind of dumbstruck that such a person, like a lot of the people who work for Barry, they're really dedicated, they're really focused on doing a hell of a job, and I hate to lose a good ally. Forget about an employee, just a good long-term ally.
I completely agree with that one.
Absolutely.
Well, I guess we can go to the regional building agreement. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts, or you wanna spend a little more time looking at it.
I haven't looked at it.
Is this something that's overly pressing right now?
No, it's not. I really just moved it forward because because Peter Sam had actually acted on it.
Yeah.
I figured it was gonna be at least one more review, but I'd say if you wanna take your time and review it, the only, I would say, quote, pressing part on it is the proposed budget for the next year, just because it does factor in the percentages. There's not really much of a change, but it is based on the discussion that you did have with that meeting, so that would be the only, pressing issue, but those are the numbers that are being brought forward to the annual town meeting anyway.
Okay.
So the bulk of the agreement hasn't changed much,
Other than mainly the forming of a group of one member of each board that would serve as an oversight committee. That would serve, from the previous rendition, there hasn't been much change as far as what was presented to you guys before. There were a few minor tweaks that were brought forward in discussion with the other boards, but overall, it's the same basic changes where you're coming up with a oversight committee that kind of manages how the agreement's going and making sure that things are going properly and kind of more spelling out what the official duties of each party to the agreement are.
Okay.
and the percentages of contributions have not changed?
Generally not. The only difference was that there was a discussion about the use of the vehicle in the original agreement. The town of Barry was the one that had the vehicle, and the budget showed that that stipend for mileage was carried by us. Now that vehicle's owned by the town of Hardwick, and they're paying the operational costs of that. So it's basically $5,000 per year that's now levied against the other three towns proportionate to the same number of hours. So that's taken off of Hardwick's
this is
assessment.
That's where they're showing that.
But generally, everything else is the same percentage-wise.
So it's assessed normally for every town, and then what they do is they take 3,000 off of Hardwick, and they take the original percentages of the other three, and that's how they divvy up that 3,000 to the other three towns. So in other words, you get assessed based on the estimated hours our building inspectors being used per week in each town, and then they made the correction to the vehicle after that.
Doesn't that leave the other towns paying double for it and Hardwick not paying for it? It's been removed from them and then added to us, so they've lost 3,000, we've assumed 3,000 more.
Because
They should
in
be.
their general budget back in their town, they're funding all the maintenance and repairs to that
Right, so
vehicle.
if they lose the 3,000, they should still pick up their proportion when it goes. In other words, they shouldn't forfeit the whole 3,000, they should still bear 10% of that. They should have 2,700 off their books, and 300 of that should still be theirs. 3,000 reimburses them for what they spend. That 3,000 should be dispersed over all of the communities, not the other ones. We spend $50,000 on an item. We get our
Previously-
$50,000 back. then the other towns have to pay the 50,000. No, we should all then pay it equally.
Previously, when we paid for the vehicle mileage or maintenance,
Mhm.
it was never dispersed and appropriated across 4 towns. We were paying for the service of, I thought, like just to provide the building inspector. We didn't throw that into the lump above, did we? And then redistribute it across the board to all 4 towns?
Regardless of how it was set up before,
No, I
So this
mean,
is- I'm
if
saying
we,
right-
if we did split it between the 4 towns before, then that supports your position
Right.
where,
So this is, I guess
We-
this is where I thought.
if we
were gonna
didn't, we should.
Yeah, yeah, so I guess this
That's
is
what
where
I'm
we
saying.
should have, or, I was hoping that we have a second meeting to affirm this, because I think that was still a point of discussion or not affirmed, so I think that you're right, that we can hold off on this. Maybe bring everybody back in and just affirm that point, or at least
Mhm.
get that, because, that was my understanding, the distribution based on the conversation, but that, I might have missed the point on that, so.
Yeah, I
let's-
gotcha.
If Hardwick has put 3,000 in the car, they're giving the
Yeah.
3,000 back.
Mhm.
That entire 3,000 is now picked up 79% by us, 15 by Puget Sound, and 6 by New Braintree.
Mhm.
But none of that car expense is borne by Hardwick at this point, because they've been
Right.
fully reimbursed. They should have bore $300.
so all
of
3
that.
towns are paying them to pay for their maintenance
Right.
Yes,
completely, and they're not paying even their
correct.
portion. Okay, I got you.
Right, so I think that we need to,
Sometimes,
Get that too.
sometimes I do numbers good.
I think that was, when we were when we were discussing it, I think that's what we were, where I felt that we were headed, because they felt that it was the other towns, so I think we just have to clear that up.
Okay.
58% of the $300 would be ours.
Right.
But,
And obviously, Petersham's probably not gonna
$174, so.
complain about that, because it would potentially reduce
Even further
from
reduce their assessment.
$450 down to $420 or whatever the.
Right, it wouldn't add any additional cost to them if Hardwick had to pick up any additional slack on that.
So, otherwise, I haven't read the whole thing through, but I've
Yes.
glanced through it, it looks fine.
Yeah, look through it,
Do you have any other comments and we don't deal with it? Just email Andrew.
I will.
And-
If I see him, like I said,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna take all the time to read it now, so the meeting up, but I've been through most of it pretty
any other
quickly.
changes in that, we could just, I mean, I wasn't anticipating Peter Sam even moving on it, so,
Right.
until we all kind of came back together.
They
so
must have liked it.
A
They
little
must
bit of
have
a
liked it.
blindside, so I figured might as well throw it on the agenda.
That's all right, I mean, it's a
Yeah.
good thing it did, because now we get something
mean-
debated on and out of the way, so it's belonged here anyways.
Yeah, I think even when we were bringing everybody together, all the different, and again, I'm kind of saying what they said without,
Yeah.
I could say it wrong, so
We didn't even have
forgive
those-
me.
We didn't even have those numbers in front of us, so. it was
Right,
kind of-
and
Yeah.
we talked about vehicle, but the bigger issue
It's
was just
$174 for the town, it's not huge.
making
but it's-
sure that group came together so that all towns felt like they had a voice during the entire year, not just,
Right.
at the end of the year, it's like, I can't believe what just happened for the last 365. You know, so it allowed them to be able to, it's almost like a means to present your concerns
Right.
and make sure that in this, we're giving everybody that place to do it.
Yeah, the largest issue was that it, as with the position being under the town of Berry, if something were to occur in another town, what is how is that issue being addressed? Is it being addressed by their board of selectmen, our board of selectmen? There was really that kind of big question mark with that person being a Berry employee, but also working in another town, so that's what the point of.
So
view
we've taken
is.
any litigations or issues or concerns, come in, we're bringing them in front of the joint board
Right.
instead of to the town.
Yep.
Very good.
This is signed, do you want it back?
I will take that back, yeah.
They're all signed.
You know what, actually keep it, because
We'll just start it again.
They're all
Yeah.
signed.
I have no problem with you holding it.
I'll take it back.
That way, if it works out,
Greg can keep-
where they give you the
Okay.
email
They're
saying,
all
yeah,
signed,
that's
they're all
fine,
right.
and you just wanna keep the
Yeah.
signature page, I understand.
Okay.
Getting 4 or 5 towns to all sign the same contract doesn't happen quickly.
Now, they'll have to re-sign anyways if we change the number.
Yeah. All right, request to waive ambulance fee Mr. Clifford, I'm not gonna say anything because I may have said something I shouldn't have said last time, so I'll let you present.
Yeah, so I went forward with the requests that you guys had about, you know, how we've handled tax collections in the past, and if there's any consideration of means when done that. And in talking with her, means is usually not brought in, because the interest rate is 16% on non-payment of taxes. So it's really just a matter of how can, you know, what works best for that person.
Okay.
I did talk with the billing company. They said if the board decides not to grant any sort of relief, they can still set up a payment plan with the individual. So the options are there. Even if you guys did reduce it, they'd still be able to work out a payment plan directly with that person rather than leaving it to the board to make that determination.
Okay.
Well, the other portions that we were discussing was, if everything that we take on face value that they said is absolute and true, which there's no evidence to support it, it would seem like a reasonable thing to forgive it. But we also don't know if this could be someone that has a $10 million estate, and sure, they don't have any real income anymore. The reality is we don't know. We don't know their financial position. We don't know their ability to pay, and they haven't. They've had the opportunity to demonstrate their ability to pay or inability to pay, and they haven't really made an attempt to do that, other than state that their under an income is at a certain level. Under an income, I believe, would indicate dividends paid or interest paid on things. It doesn't address monies they may have set aside, savings accounts or such. Perhaps they have massive savings, and that's their earnings off of the savings account, and at the 1% annual interest nowadays, that would be a tremendous amount of money. We don't know.
Yeah.
They have made no statement as to their net assets or their net worth or how this impacts them according to that. So, Claire asked a question.
Yes, Claire.
The biggest thing in this is you'd be setting precedents.
That's my biggest concern.
Yes, for anybody.
If I can't
People could
truly
say, okay,
have documentation to show the hardship, it's very difficult for me to defend that against anybody else that comes and writes an email to me saying the same thing.
and if the billing company is willing to do a payment plan,
Yeah. Typically,
that's fine.
I don't know, are they willing to do it, or are they willing to let us do it and they'll write it off their list of collectibles?
they will do it that way,
Okay,
but
I just-
typically the way the process has been is that leaving it in the hands of the billing company. They'll go through every means that they can for collections, and if they've exhausted all of their means of collections, then they'll bring it back to the town and say that these are the uncollectibles, we're requesting that you waive it. Now, it could go through that process too. It just seemed, this is one of the only ones that has come forward to say in advance before even attempting to set up a payment plan, can you waive the fee?
I would suggest that we consider requesting the billing company to set them up on a payment plan. And if they feel that they haven't had satisfaction with this board, they could feel free to bring in demonstration of their financial need. Strictly saying you're not earning money right now, they seem to be retired at a young age. We didn't find out why. If I would have retired at age 64 years old, that would be because I was financially stable and set to do so. Regardless of income coming in, I would have enough money set aside to know I could live out my life without working, or I wouldn't retire at that age. We don't know those circumstances. They haven't brought this to us, and they haven't talked about their net assets, so I would be considering making a motion that way, but
Has Mr. Clifford come before the board in person?
Only in
No,
writing.
just in writing.
Actually, I believe the original request was referred from the chief, the fire chief. Mostly because he handles the ambulance and the collection company. And then we had the follow-up question, and then, did he email
He sent,
his documents?
he sent it by,
He sent,
Yeah.
okay. So he sent by mail our follow-up, the information we had requested to some level. Maybe we didn't know what to specifically ask for, maybe we didn't know what we
For a
meant.
demonstration of hardship.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I do believe that what he sent was an intent to show that. So I'm not saying that he failed to respond to our request. And that's why I'm saying maybe we didn't know the right thing to ask, because once we received it, we're still sitting here going, I'm still not comfortable that this proves it to us. Plus, I'm not saying it would make a huge difference, but outside of this individual, I have not had anybody else come to me saying, yes, I know him. He's lived there forever. So I don't even have like anything else to rely on.
No vouchers from anybody, you know.
Right, and I'm not saying if that's what you do in this case, that's another, do you rely on that or not, because it's word of mouth. But to me, at least, that's better than nothing.
There's one other issue we talked about, if you recall, was if the amount that was owed was gonna satisfy his deductible for the year. In other words, he may be having to pay all of this because he hasn't met his deductible yet. Sooner or later, he's gonna meet the deductible, whether he pays it to, for medicines, a doctor visits, or this bill, he's gonna pay that deductible. And the way his letter read, it sounded like this would just basically pay off most of his deductible for the year, which means in the future, he wouldn't have these bills. But we still don't know for sure. We didn't have definitive answers, and he can always come back and argue it again in the future if he wants to bring in something. And we may want to consider, after the annual meeting, looking at developing a policy on this for what level or percentage of income we'll consider a hardship for someone who's working, and for someone who's retired, maybe we look at it as a percentage of assets and net worth, what kind of impact this has on somebody before we make a
Yeah.
determination. To give ourselves something to go by, so we're not taking case by case and just, shooting from the hip and hoping we hit it right. We should be able to research and find some standards that are reasonable to expect people to pay. I'm sure that's how Mass Health works. They look at income levels in wealth to determine if somebody's qualified for free care or assisted care or one of their health plans, and different levels of plans and compensation packages.
Yeah.
So there's probably places we can find resource and information that gives us guidelines to use when we look at that.
I agree, we do need to look at something that if this comes before us again, we can say, we need this, and this in order to even review the request, because if you don't provide that to show your actual income situation.
And for those who don't realize, the billing in the past was done by the old ambulance service on their own, and they often let things go the wayside, and we had many uncollectibles and uncollected things. They typically would bill someone in town once. If it wasn't paid, they didn't bill them again. So it was not very well performed before, and we lost a lot of revenue by not pursuing receivables. So this is the first step, to have a billing company take care of this for us. The next step is to come up with a policy and determine when we will consider giving somebody relief, percentage of relief or full relief. For now, I would make a motion that we remit this to the collections company with a request that they put them on a payment plan, offer them a payment plan, and leave it open for them to come before us again if they'd like to give further proof in regards to their asset position and ability to pay versus desire to pay. And evidence if this is covering their deductible or if this is not working towards a deductible. Things of that nature. In the meantime, the collection should continue. That'll end my motion. That is right in the book, sorry.
No,
Hold on, I get too long-winded on that, but
it's okay, because I go back and watch it.
Trying to
Say, thankfully, they do record this, because
Yeah,
it's not easy.
it's very helpful.
I'm watching Andrew write the things I wanted included.
Do
So
you have
this-
anything to add to that, or?
No, I feel pretty comfortable with what Greg just said.
So I'd second that. Any further discussion? Call for vote?
Aye.
Aye.
I
We just have to remember to put this on the agenda maybe when we have some time in the summer, you know, before we get busy in the fall and
Yeah.
and try to hash it around some and,
We'll have to start working on something on that.
yeah.
All right. Let's get into the real fun. The annual town meeting warrant. The final draft for review and approval so it can go to the constables and be posted across town. I believe the last meeting, we really only talked about the
Juggling
order.
orders.
Well, I should say, the only thing we wanted revised was the order of the articles, correct?
I believe that's all we did.
Recall. Everything was the same, 1 through 10. And then we moved 11, 12, and 13 to after Wachusett Greenways. Yep.
Was there some
Sewer,
notice
water.
from the school about either the PA system or, I seem to recall they made a mention of the PA system or the dishwasher, I think the PA system, that they'd send an email out after.
They
our
provide
meeting.
clarification on what they were asking, yes. They mentioned the parking included the design for the drainage and.
There was additional, it was the original request was $30,000 for PA and telephone. They used funding from,
They covered it, didn't
they covered half of the cost for they covered the cost of the phone, so the remaining was the integration of the PA. That cost in half. So it's a $50,000 request rather than or $15,000 request rather than a $30,000 request.
I recall there was something, because I know they followed up, and the emails were forwarded, they followed up after the last meeting.
I appreciated that follow-up. It was pretty, quick, it wasn't.
That's
so
why I
that
want-
helps close the issue, so it's not dragging. I'm trying to remember what we said.
Part of why I wanted to note it. We know what happened, no one else does until we bring it up. That transparency stuff we talk about.
Exactly. It appears to me I'm comfortable with the way it is. And you got 25 copies to be signed or something?
I got E.
Of course you do.
The ones that you have are the first three.
But before we get to the signing, let's make sure we're all we're comfortable.
I am comfortable with it.
I'm comfortable with it.
As comfortable as you will be in your first warrant, yes.
Nice.
Oh, once you get through it, it's not so bad. Why don't you take that motion, Dylan? Go ahead, you got a motion in there.
I move that we accept this warrant as written.
Second.
Call for vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So now we can
Start signing.
start signing.
And the clerk should put the day in.
You can do that top part, that little section there.
You know,
Oh, wait.
All of them. It should be this blank day or blank in the year. We
Town clerk at the time and place of. Okay, yep. So that is given to us, the board. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't the constable's.
which should read the third day of June,
2019.
then 19.
So it's a fun game. what I'm gonna do is,
You can verify they complete. when
and
they give it to
now
you.
what comes to you, you'll be the last signatory of everything else, so it won't be this. Who signed which one? We did that the last time, I think, and it was.
Yeah, we caught them all.
Spun in circles.
We all skipped one here or there.
Yay. In the meantime, we have, the DPW commission, the DPW commissioner had already approved, hiring 2 seasonal people to help with the parks and commons, mowing the lawns, et cetera. So we have 2 wage authorizations. One is for Owen Benoit and one is Philip Robichaud.
One of those
They're
is-
both returning from previous years. Do we have a questions or a motion to approve the wage authorizations?
I will make a motion, we approve those wage authorizations for those seasonal employees, as the DPW commission has suggested. Or hired.
I would second that.
Call for vote.
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
That's all, folks.
Oh, the real pretty one.
The real looking
Does
one.
this go to a special place?
That was the official record, so
Okay.
it stays in the clerk's office.
We voted on these authorizations,
Yep.
Yep.
so we now have library.
I'll send these to you because we buried her with stuff over there.
Got it.
Well, we did it the other way.
Yeah, I was gonna
I'm
take.
so confused.
That's all right.
Oh, we have so the next wage authorization is the recommendation from the library director, Stephanie Young, for Jenna Garvey, the current circulation librarian, to step into the acting director's role as Stephanie moves on. That would be effective May 31st. So technically, today would be the first Monday working day that she would have had that position. And Stephanie's sticking around for the month. My understanding is it works within the budget. So
Yes.
she
Yep.
can do that, and we can keep the 2 for a month so that she can pass on information and help provide guidance. So, do we have any
The warrants?
questions?
The warrants? No questions from me. I have one in the audience.
Yes, Claire?
Is the acting director going to be the director eventually, or are you
We
gonna
will
put it
have
out?
to, I believe we have to
Oh,
post it
stacking 'em.
anyway.
Okay.
Am I correct, Andrew? We have to post this position.
Yes.
So we can't just give it to the next person in line.
So you will open it up and.
Yeah.
Yes, and there are minimum age or minimum educational requirements for the position itself that has to be filled. So,
Now, does this acting director have those qualifications?
I do not believe for the permanent position,
Okay,
so.
that's what I was wondering.
Okay. So after this, we'll also have a separate motion come in after this,
It should be number 8.
just to make sure we do it right. But I would like to make a motion to approve moving Jenna Garvey from the circulation librarian up to the acting director position.
Second the motion.
Any further discussion? Call for vote.
Aye.
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 Keep the wage authorizations together. I guess, what I'd like to add is just to make a motion, or, yeah, I'll make a motion that we post the position publicly, as soon as practicable.
I'll work
And-
with the treasurer, or the trustees on their timeline and how they wanna.
Right.
Yep.
But I just want to make sure that we formally approve posting the position, so there's no question about did we do that or not, and how did we do it. Not that we couldn't, but for department heads, I'm not big on just posting it internally before going externally. I just want to go straight out externally, and internal people can jump on the wagon. Any thoughts?
Don't like it.
Don't like what?
I like the internal posting first as a policy, and lots of the town personnel who have worked here and put their time in here appreciate that opportunity. They still have to be qualified to have the job. And if they're not properly qualified, they can still apply later, and they may beat out other applicants. But it's been policy here in town, and it's a policy that I've seen people over the years become frustrated with when it's not adhered to. And I would like to adhere to it. I don't think it's gonna harm us to do so.
Even for department heads? Because I normally am fine with all the other positions.
I-
But
you
department
know-
heads, I feel. But I do understand you're carrying institutional knowledge because you've been here, so that may, but you don't have anybody to compete against.
Yeah, well, the department, I guess the department head position is also a chance for someone to step up. But it doesn't mean they're guaranteed the position, but it gives them the opportunity to apply for it first, be considered on their merits. And they may be qualified, they may not be qualified. But it does give the chance to promote within if it fits for the town. If it doesn't fit for the town, we still don't have to appoint, we're not forced to give it. But to give that posting an opportunity for people in town to apply and stand up and say they want it, and demonstrate they're prepared for it. I think it's just something we give to those people that work for us already. That's all. It's respect.
How long of a window is
2 weeks.
traditional? 2 weeks.
It's a 2-week window for them to apply on their own before we go out and post it. If no one qualified steps up, we don't take them just because they apply. They still have to meet the qualifications.
I mean, I guess in a way I'm okay with that.
We
Give it
still
the
have
2
to approve
weeks. If you receive something, allow the trustees to go through would they be the primary interviewer?
Yes, they're,
Exclusive on that.
Because,
yeah, they're part
but
of.
not after that use and agreement, because all personnel
Well,
follow our personnel
well,
policy,
true.
so they're no longer the prime.
They're they serve as the search committee.
That's what I was trying to get at, okay.
But they should have the same respect. My opinion is any department head's given and they get to make the selection of their worker. We still have the final hiring, as we do this evening, wage authorizations. But as I've said before, I like to see any department head make their choice for their employees without our interference.
But would they be coming to us with
For the
3
pool.
applicants for us to decide?
No, I don't think so. Well, for the department.
Well, how
head-
many-
for the
right.
Department, yes, sorry. The department head, yes. For other
So we're back
applicants,
to that where, like he said,
Right.
the trustees would act as the
But-
search committee,
Right.
but we would ask for 3 if 3 apply.
And what I think we did before that I was happy with is if we don't have 3 apply off the town posting, whoever does apply shall be considered with the final applicants.
Right. Take that
That's-
first group
right.
and just add it to the next group so you can get a
Right.
minimum
If
of
they go-
3.
If they go do their search, they can pick 3 new ones if they want and make a 4th and add that if one town employee applies, they have to be included in that group if they qualify. That's a caveat I think we did last time that was satisfactory.
I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah.
At least it gets them at the table, the opportunity to go through the interview.
Right.
Like you said, they've still got to meet all the paperwork requirements. And if they have that, then go through the interview
And
process.
we deserve the right to look at more than one employee for a department head position.
Yep.
For small, lesser positions, I don't think so. If-
And I
If
agree
they have
with
one
that.
candidate for a DPW spot, then let them hire him. But in the department head, I'd like to see 3, but if we have any individual in this town that thinks they're qualified and wants to put their hat in the ring, they should be allowed to be heard. As part of the final group, or in addition to the final group. I
So
don't-
let's see if
either
we
way.
word this right. We would like to open it internally for 10 business days, 2 weeks. We're counting Fridays as business days in this world.
If 3 applicants are not received, qualified, post it externally.
Right. The minimum goal here is for the library trustees to send us 3 qualified applicants for us to make a final decision on. but any qualified applicant that internally submits their application and meets the qualifications in that 10-day period would be included in that minimum 3. If they want to send 5 at us,
3 to 5, yeah.
they can send 5 at us, especially if they feel like that internal candidate like just meets, but they're not really happy with it. We still want them to be able to sit at the table with us so that we can have a bigger picture.
If you'd like, I can talk with the Board of Trustees and have them come into the next meeting and just affirm that that position, just so that way you get, just so that way they don't feel blindsided that they're being dictated.
That's
yes,
perfect.
If that works.
I have no
'Cause
problem with you posing it that way, so we
Right.
can start the
Tell them that's how
discussion.
we handle the other
Okay.
department heads in town, we'd like to
Yeah.
do the same here.
Okay.
Um,
I just,
And if we're making the final decision, we always welcome and ask for them to rank their top 3 requests.
yeah, I just know that there are some statutory statutory responsibilities that they have. I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page moving forward. The fact that they
Okay.
have appointed somebody and Stephanie's staying on as a consultant, I think we have enough time to bring them in and all get on the same page. So,
Okay.
all right.
Right, I expect this process should take at least 2 or 3 months to have this done.
Probably.
By the time it's all done and decided.
Unless we get lucky and an internal is perfectly qualified and just came out of nowhere and we had no clue.
Mhm.
Well, for all I know, the trustees already
They may
know
have them
who
lined up already, we
that's
don't
in.
know.
Okay,
They may
we'll
be
do it
already
like that
temporary
then.
there.
So, let me get this straight.
Then I would note that their temporary employee, if they want the full-time position, should apply for it
Okay.
and be included in that application process. Not assumed.
Okay, correspondence. We got 2 things here. We officially received a resignation notice from Dennis Fleming to the Board of Selectmen. I'll read it here. Dear Select Board and Town Administrator, or Administration, I wish to inform you of my stepping down from the Planning Board as well as Parks and Recs as of June 19. I will stay on as an elected constable, also the town flag tender and the 9/11 Memorial Committee to its completion. It has been an honor and a privilege to be a part of the town governing over the last 30 years. I wish the Planning Board continued success in its endeavors. Respectfully submitted, Dennis Fleming. Personally, I'd like to say that thank you to Dennis for all the time he's put into the town in various roles. I believe he was also an on-call firefighter for a while.
He was for several years.
So he's put a lot into this town, and I can only say thank you for that.
He also
It
works
doesn't
with
matter
the
what
VFW.
role he's done.
He's a veteran who works with the veterans.
Oh, yeah.
So he does a lot.
He's, his contributions are gonna be missed. That's all I can say. A lot of times you don't realize what he's been doing to try to just volunteer this time or that time. So, thank you very much, Dennis. We're gonna have to work through the planning board appointment, I'm guessing? Do we have to, they'll offer the associate? Is that what they do, is they recommend the associate? Or do we request applications and we review them as a board and appoint?
I'll affirm that process with Ellen.
Okay. Apparently we'll have 2 boards that we're gonna have to
Obviously,
do
we
that
have the
with.
appointing authority, but I don't know if there's an internal policy or not as to how they proceed, but there should be, I hope.
But just being an elected board, I want to make sure that we're following proper procedure as far as backfilling that position.
This would be.
Right, and that's where I got confused, cause I don't know if we have to do it until they actually are below quorum.
We don't have to fill it. We have the ability to fill it for the remainder of that term, I believe.
That's why I want.
But also, this would be one of the rare times where I say, I would honor the past procedures and processes in this, because I often say, I don't care how we've done it in the past, I want to make sure it's right.
Yeah.
We got to make sure it's right also, but I'd like to honor however this has been performed in the past for seats. This is an important, very important seat to fill.
Yeah.
The planning board anyways, they're all important, but the planning board especially is a very important seat to fill. should not be taken lightly.
Perfect. So, again,
Thank you, Dennis.
thank you, Dennis, and hope the best to you with whatever free time this creates for you. Because I doubt you're gonna let it be free time. He'll find a way to just fill it with something else he does. But he's good for him.
Now, I seem to recall that years ago, we used to have the clerk read all these correspondence.
We may have. I forgot. You're
I
right.
think we may have. Well, we don't want to
Would you
leave him
like to
left, we
read
don't want to
this
leave
one,
him left out
please?
over there. We've got to give him some
Yeah.
more time.
Yes.
All right.
Work his pipes here a little bit.
Sure.
Spread the
I think
wealth.
you're
a little
correct.
Okay, we have regarding industrial hemp grower license issued in Barry to Town Administrator Andrew Golis. On July 28th, 2017, Governor Baker signed H. 3818, an act to ensure safe access to marijuana, which updates the Commonwealth laws that govern the use of marijuana. This legislation also created a distinction between marijuana and hemp, allowing hemp to be grown commercially. Though newly added sections 116 through 123 of Mass General Law, Chapter 128, the Massachusetts Department of Agricultural Resources Department was given the authority to oversee the growth and production of hemp for commercial and research purposes within the Commonwealth. The department has committed to notifying public safety officials and the chief administrative or executive officers when a license has been issued in a municipality in order to ensure that municipal officials are aware of licensed hemp operations and can reach out to the department with any questions or concerns. This letter is to inform you that the department has issued an industrial hemp grower license to Liam Sullivan of 101 Daunt Road in Barry, Mass., who has licensed hemp fields in Barry. Please be advised that this information is being transmitted to you for the purposes of public safety, and the address of the licensee is protected from public disclosure under MGL C 128, Section 118F. The license, we'll have to edit the video, I guess. The licensee is required to post signage around any fields where hemp is being grown to identify it as. For questions or further information on industrial hemp or the MDAR hemp program, please refer to our website at mass.gov/industrial-hemp-program or contact me via the information below. Sincerely, Sarah Grubin.
That caveat should have been at the beginning of the letter,
You would have thought.
not directly
Or
following the.
prior to the address, but that was,
Yeah.
now that we know, we'll have to just keep that in mind. Shame on me and us. Hopefully it
that's-
won't matter because it's nothing that is gonna do anything other than create an agricultural product that'll go into manufacturing purposes.
Strange, the state, I thought, is talking about regulating CBD oils now, which are, I believe, product of hemp.
It's a product of all cannabis, so hemp and marijuana, CBD,
So
but
if-
you're right.
If they get into, we'll see.
But the,
It's gonna be
the
interesting.
thing about hemp that I've been, my understanding is, it's that low THC level, therefore it's not psychoactive.
Right, low and no, yeah.
Or that low level apparently, like, I think they consider it humanly impossible to ingest enough from it to actually get the psychoactive effect. But I've been, if anybody's been paying attention for the last year and a half, been pushing hemp as something that I think that a lot of the farmers should start looking into. It's a hardy crop. It rejuvenates your own soils. You don't have to do crop rotation with it, based on the research I've had. And it also is much better at sequestering carbon dioxide from the air and cleaning it. You get more air cleaning with hemp than you do with an acre of trees comparatively. And then you can harvest it and grow it again next year and get the same benefit. I do believe hemp has so I'm in full support and I hope this is great. I hope this works out very well for the gentleman that's listed here, which I will not say again.
I know the fibers, they use, they have hemp rope and they use it in clothing. I don't know what else is done with the plants, because I'm not studied up on this very well.
Fibers used in hempcrete for building insulation. It's durable, it's breathable, it doesn't ever crush because it's like a concrete concept. It oils, biodiesel fuel can be made out of hemp.
Paper products, right? Paper, cardboard.
Paper products. Apparently, plastics can have hemp in it that can become a biodegradable plastic
In
versus.
the carbon dioxide aspect, we certainly learned that, we're talking about the indoor grow, that they grow marijuana in a high concentration of carbon dioxide because it grows better, so obviously it must absorb or consume a lot of it.
Wants it.
So those are all good points. Be interested to see how this works out for the farmers that want to try it.
Me too. The more I've been reading it, it's what I've found based on my latest reading. For any, who cares what I read, right? I'm not a farmer.
What do we know?
But what I've been reading is you're seeing a lot of the development of the farming aspect of it. But some of the farmers now are trying to find the processors and the manufacturers to ship their goods to. Right now, it's not like they don't have a place, it's just not a lot of local places yet. And that was the part that I thought we would really fit in well if we could add that aspect to our local
I
economy
was gonna
somehow, and get
say.
the right developers to look at that.
We still have places in town that someone who was enterprising wanted to get into that type of business could certainly look towards here. With the farmlands available, if more people wanted to grow hemp and somebody wanted to process that, we could pick up some industry here that would be healthy for the town and healthy for the farmers and individuals involved.
So, that's my little spiel. I've got no more to say on hemp again for at least
Couple days.
24 hours.
This seems only like a positive, only positive potential here. No downsides really.
That's my
That
understanding.
That we know
At
of.
first glance.
I am sure something will come
At
up,
first
but
glance.
let's hope it's minor.
Right.
Hardly anything comes without a downside. As we said before, there's gonna be a certain percentage of female plants in the hemp, so you're gonna have erroneous pot plants in there. How they dealt with, don't know.
Through jobs.
Well, any
People
individual's
out
allowed to
there-
grow, what, 4 plants or something, or 6 plants, so.
6.
Yeah, something like that.
They could count that as a 6.
But if you got
I
a
don't
hemp
know.
license,
Yeah.
you can't put those 6 plants in the hemp field, because they find
No,
one,
but
they're
we're not-
gonna throw
I'm-
away your whole
No, I'm not
crop.
assuming they'd
So
intentionally
for
do it.
those people that,
I'm assuming that
think that's why.
I'm assuming that some portion, 1 in 5,000 plants,
Mm.
is gonna turn out to be female.
right,
It's just
various outdoor
it's-
cultivation, potentially cross-pollinating to.
Exactly, so
I gotcha.
I don't know how they're gonna deal with those yet, and that's the only issue I see that may come up with it, how that's dealt with, and if the repercussions are too severe, how do you determine someone if is doing it intentionally versus it really is random? Someone has 2 or 3 plants in the field is one thing, and someone has 50, you say, wait a minute, there's something going on here.
Right.
Either there's something wrong in the processing.
I
how
don't
the
think
plants
that
are
was one
selected.
monarch butterfly that
Yeah.
turned half your field into a non-hemp field.
We'll see.
Gotcha.
Should be a good thing.
So, that's the end of our agenda. Do either of you have a selectman report you wanna bring
I
up?
do not.
No.
Andrew, you got anything for a town administrator's report?
The only thing I wanted to let you guys know, Sharon and I did meet with Lynn Foster over at Unibank.
Mhm.
We were discussing kind of our strategy on reestablishing bond rating. And what we're basically doing is, our target goal is a year from now to go for the revaluation of bond rating. It's actually $12,500 fee that you pay for the bond rating to evaluate you.
Okay.
So we'd be looking at, whenever we have a special town meeting, to do an appropriation from stabilization for that fee to go into an account. And then around next February, assuming that everything goes well, in the next year, we can improve the reporting timeliness, then we'll be looking at doing
Get
that.
the
It's probably gonna-
third-party audit back
Right.
timely.
It's gonna be basically as soon as our next audit completes, we'd be looking at going out for that bond rating revaluation.
Oh, okay. So you're not saying actually like 365 years next year, you're actually saying in 2020?
In
At some point.
2020, once the you know, once the audit's completed for that period, we'd
Yeah.
be looking at doing that reval. Because
Okay.
that's, in discussing with, everything else is fine, it's the timeliness of the audit completion. And that's been something that we've been hammering on about, and
Right.
might be looking
But
at.
we've got time now to make sure everybody understands the implications so that they can
Exactly.
do it as they need to.
And if changes need to be made, then changes will be made between now and then.
As he said that, I do recall one topic that I did bring up with Andrea that I should share with the board. It was on payouts for retiring personnel. Typically, if someone has, say, 5 weeks of vacation time or 4 weeks of vacation time, it's built into their annual salary. When that person takes time off, they're just paid as if they'd work and they have the day off. That's how the vacation works. It doesn't cost the town any extra money. But if that same person elects to retire at the end of the year, that vacation amount has to be paid out in full. And that's an additional cost to the allocated salaries. And we just had a brief conversation about that, and also sick bank. Sick bank pays out only if somebody, I believe, has been here 15 years, and it pays out something of 50 cents on the dollar.
It's 20 years, and it's a maximum of 480 hours.
Okay.
So I asked Andrew to put together the numbers for now towards the end of the year. What would our obligation be if all of those workers had to be paid out for the eligible sick time and vacation times? And he had some numbers for us.
Yeah, so that, as of right now, that total liability for vacation time, $76,000.
And at the beginning of the year, it's how much?
Beginning of the year is $269,000. So,
So most of it's used typically in a year, but we do have a balance of, we could say roughly $80,000. That's potential.
80,000 seems to be the carryover that can.
Total
Might
potential.
be hanging regularly.
right.
And the sick time was far less, of course, but
Mhm. Yeah, so it was 47,000 was the 480 hours of sick time for those people that have worked for more than 20 years.
I guess.
was how many hours?
It was, so he took 480 hours of the individuals who have more than 20 years of service to the town. The total net value of that was $47,000.
That's at our payout value or the full value?
That's the payout
The
value.
payout, 47,000?
Yeah,
Okay, so we have a 123, so call it $125,000 potential liability that could impact the budget at some point if somehow everyone quit. I don't think it's very unlikely, but I propose maybe we
What's
set
that
up,
percentage?
we set up a revolving account for a certain percentage, maybe 25% of that. Establish the account so that we keep and maintain 25% of that. So once we set that money aside, it stays there. And when somebody retires, it doesn't hit that department on their budget. It comes out of that specific revolving account. At the next annual town meeting, we replenish it back to that value. And I don't think we should ever anticipate more than a 25% hit on that account. I think that would be, even if we did, it's reasonable to set that much aside. Whether we allocate money a little bit over a couple of years, not even set it up this year, but something to consider in the future. And Claire's got a furrowed face, but you see where I'm going.
I've got a question.
Mm-hmm.
The municipal employees of the town of Barry, when they retire, do they get paid their sick time they have left?
If
they
they've
have
been
more
here
than-
20 years.
if you're more than 20 years, you get up to 480 hours that you can cash out.
Now, see, the municipal department in Sterling, you didn't get paid for your sick time when you retired.
See how friendly we are?
No, I agree.
That's.
So that needs to be pointed out to employees of the town of Barry.
No, see,
Well-
Municipal
but
employees do have good benefits.
No,
Yeah,
the
it is.
reason that was, my guess, is the reason that that's there where we'll actually pay you for it. Where most municipalities do not pay you for it
and the
when you
employees take them.
leave. They allow you to use it to help with short-term disability or long Family Leave Act issues.
Yeah.
But that is the thing that is a way to try to keep someone working for us is, oh, you got 12 years in? Well, just think, 8 years, you get another 12 weeks paid just by retiring, right, walking out the door.
Yeah.
And it is kind of a reason to stick around.
And it prevents abuse of
So-
sick time hours. If people don't have a reason to bank it, they tend to say, well, let's use up these hours and
How
take a
many
couple extra
would it
free days
really
off.
affect?
It only affects those that are willing to wait.
You know,
But that's why the liability, but there's still.
But that's the other reason why, how,
and I don't think
Much of is
many
it-
municipals pay.
Well, they-
That's a
they-
large
they all
liability
sit-
considered.
they
I'm
have
surprised
different-
it's that high.
I mean, they have different considerations. Typically, they stem from what the union rates are, and I think that's pretty much what's basically just been transferred. Whatever's been negotiated by the union has kind of gone into the personnel policy, so that way
So we didn't have any.
right, so that's typically how that's been is handled in some of the employee contracts.
I mean, I'm comfortable with it staying there for now, because again, of the total number of employees, how often are we gonna run across a 20-year employee that we're gonna pay it out on?
The thought-
That actually saved 480 hours also. You know, it's not like you're given 480 and if you don't use it, you still gotta save it throughout your career.
So I think it'd be good practice if we could they'll bolster the, maybe not this year, but in future years, bolster that reserve fund up to 20 to 30,000 and consider that to be your reserve account that you're going after if you do have to pay out that retirement fund and then backfilling that position.
Well, if we use a reserve fund for other purposes, I'd say bolster it by 30,000. 31,000 would be 25%, so
I
30.
kinda like Greg's
30,000.
thing here, a separate account. And the reason I like it is I was here when we flipped the fire chief and the police chief, and within a year, the town administrator, and every one of them put a big bite into that budget because they had had all that accumulated. And it made it hard on each of those, like each one of those departments, it felt like had to wait a year just to start over to catch up. They were just that, I remember one year we had, 20 accounts, we were trying to do line item transfers at the end of the year just to fill the police departments. Because the chief left and he had all that accumulated.
Yeah.
And this is what I was looking at, the hits in the departments, and we talked about juggling money in the last couple of months of the fiscal year. It can be avoided if we set it aside, and I don't want to try to open the warrant and place something new in the warrant at this stage, again, we just signed it. But to think towards maybe special town meeting or next year's warrant, maybe establish this account, and maybe when we have free cash come next time in the fall, we set aside some of this, not all of it, maybe half then and half later, put 15 aside and do 15 again later.
Something to, room to grow in,
Right.
kinda like
so
what we did with
so
OPEB.
we could propose, we open the account now with 15,000, and at the annual town meeting, we'd bolster it to the 30,000 level we intend to keep it at, unless we decide jointly to keep it at a higher level, which we might want to. It doesn't hurt us to have it there. I don't know if that could be held in an interest-bearing account as a revolving fund. I would assume it could. It would have to stay liquid. It couldn't be invested, but it could gain some interest as it sits, and we could just keep it at that sustained level. Hopefully, year by year, it's minimal, and then as someone loses a department, it doesn't hit that budget unjustly and mess up somebody's year-end somebody retires in the department right now at the end of the year, they're gonna get hit for $3,000-4,000 they don't expect, and we know at this stage of the game, that's gonna break a budget.
What I would like to
So-
do with this, if you're okay with it, is I'd like to make a motion where Andrew, working with Greg, presents this to the finance committee to review. Because eventually, to do this, it's really gonna need their approval.
Yeah, and
So, and that starts a conversation.
And the
And then we'll keep
25%.
moving and building off it at that point. And I have no problem, kind of, if you're interested, Greg, you kind of carrying the torch for the board until final decisions are made, and then you come back and,
certainly.
because despite all of that, it's,
25%
really gotta
was
be
very
them.
arbitrary, so that number is just a percentage I threw out there. I don't know if more or less makes sense. It's not a big number, 31,000, to have that much reserve account. We probably took way more than that 2 years ago when all the positions switched over. We probably took closer to $80,000 hit. So we don't need to be ready to absorb an extreme $80,000 hit. I wouldn't plan for the worst,
Maybe something to
but I'd
blunt
like
the
to
blow.
absorb a large amount of that out of a fund like this, whereas it does us no harm to keep it there, and typically it costs us nothing on most years. But yeah, well,
Well, Steve, we had, I don't know how many years ago, but 50,000, I think one year it was 60,000 in the reserve fund that the finance committee handled.
right,
And when things like that came up, we used it out of there.
right. And the reserve fund.
That's what that was.
The reserve fund is good to have for its own purposes. It's good to have that reserve fund when, you know, when the PA system blows up someplace, or a generator breaks down, or something catastrophic
That's what we
happens to
always
it.
set it
It's
aside.
good to have something there for it. And this shouldn't be, this should be a separate issue, because it clearly is a separate issue, and it impacts each department individually in a severe way for that one department, whereas that general fund you have is gonna impact the town as a whole, and gets used out of that. This would be the town's ability to absorb any one department's hit they take for personnel leaving that is benefited and, you know, has
You
longevity.
need me to sign the stamp
So,
one?
well,
Not the copies.
that's it in that report. Thank you, Amber, for that.
I have you sign
Those are helpful, because you got them pretty quick, too.
That was a motion. Did somebody want to second that
I'll second the motion, yes.
Okay. Call for vote?
Oh, hold on, did you get that motion, or?
No.
Okay,
Okay.
let's start again.
Not.
She had it
The
before we move
motion
on.
was for Andrew to present the revolving account
I did.
concept to the finance committee, working with Greg,
As a board
who
representative.
would represent the board in this case until final decisions were made and they bring it back to the board. And you can summarize that as much as you need to.
And I seconded.
And call for vote.
Aye.
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 All right, Sam, do you still have something? I know you did raise your hand.
Yeah, I had a question. Based on the last meeting, I remember Greg O'Sullivan was mentioning regarding the school budget, that the enrollment has lessened, the quality has lessened, yet they're asking for more money. What kind of, and then there was a talk about, just talk, about if the finance committee approves and the selectmen doesn't approve. I just didn't know where that conversation went to regarding those numbers that you mentioned. A certain percentage goes to the school out of our taxes that we weren't happy with.
The way we left that was we had agreed with Hubbardston in proposing the school try to keep to a 1.4% budget increase. The town of Hubbardston suggested that they were going to, or they factually voted as a board of selectmen to not accept, not approve the school's request for 2% budget increase, and suggested they move for a 1.4% increase. They asked the other towns in the school district to make similar statements, which we did as a board. We made the statement also that we felt that they should move this towards a 1.4% increase rather than a 2%. Bearing in mind that any school increase is actually double to the towns, because the state won't budge. So when they raise by 2%, it's actually raising the towns by 4%. And that was a request we put forward. I haven't heard, I don't know if Andrew's heard from any other towns, if they've responded, but there's still other towns in our school district, the boards may or may not address it, may or may not respond as we did. They may make their statements at town meeting. I haven't heard what the finance committee's recommended in the school budget yet, or what the school budget has been put into as their final number.
Claire would know. They're voting on it this week, right?
Yeah. There, I saw Ann Goby put a thing out on Facebook that the state gave more money for transportation.
So the Senate is proposing a higher number for transportation. It's in joint committee right now with the House. No, that true number won't be known until after joint committee.
Okay.
So
And when will that be known?
that might not be until the end of June.
July
Yeah, I'm-
19th?
Also, Claire,
I saw that and I thought, gee, maybe the state is coming.
Claire,
Right.
I believe the difference is 2%, an increase from 80% to 82%. So,
It's not
Don't get
huge
your
when you
hopes up
spread it
too
across
high.
the state, I got you.
Right, so I mean, something
Anything
similar to
helps,
this
right?
happened last year where we had already proposed a number and then they increased transportation aid. That reduced our overall assessment, so we actually do have a surplus in the budget for the school's appropriation. But typically it doesn't come until after July because they run on
Right.
they don't pass a budget until later.
And the school typically turns up more free cash in the end of the year than we do. They certainly have more.
Well, they should, they got 3 times the budget as we do. So if they're
is
keeping
true.
appropriate percentage ratios, they should,
And this goes back to our discussion earlier on why we can't pay all of our employees what we'd like to pay them, because we don't say, here's what we want to pay everybody, and then just crank the tax base to cover it. We can't do that. We have to find our tax base and live within those rules, and the school has never had to do that. The school has realistically established what they want for money each year and set forth and assessed us. And we're factually paying roughly 80% above our minimum required assessment. So we're paying nearly double what we can afford, according to the state. And our budget indicates that. If we had that money back, we would have millions of $2.5 million back to this town every year.
Is the selectmen going to oppose the school budget, and the finance committee going to approve it, or what's going to?
We won't know till we vote on that, which
the
we'll do
finance
before meeting.
committee's gonna be voting, I believe, later this week, so you'll know what they're doing by the end of the week.
We'll do it
The
before.
Board of
meeting.
Selectmen will,
Do you want to attend that meeting
will we
and make a
be
recommendation?
doing the favorable, unfavorable recommendations for the
be-
booklets, or no?
If you guys, if that's.
Cause you
If we post that
probably
meeting
needed
for-
that today, didn't you?
Well, if we
I
post
will
that
be in
for
Myrtle
third,
Beach
the way the
for
book
next
is,
8 days.
the way the book is written out right now, there's no recommendations given. If you attend on Thursday and you can make a concurrent recommendation, with the finance
As we
committee,
go through them.
as you go through it, then we can publish it the next day.
To publish it. Otherwise, we have a couple times, at least 2 years ago, we sat and voted at our pre-town meeting when we went through the warrant, the articles. We went through it and made motions at that point.
Or you could do it on Monday.
I would be available to do that or at our meeting on Monday, but I won't be available for the other one.
Okay.
I'll be gone until
To,
the 12th.
so are you saying that we could do the unfavorable thing prior to the DPW commission meeting?
We should.
And
probably do
still
that.
have time for you to get them printed for,
Yeah. In years
Because-
past, it's been sent out
Won't be
2
here
days
for that.
before. I mean, that still
Right.
gives us a week and a half, and that would be the last thing that needs to be put in.
so let's do it then. So next Monday we'll do it. Finance committee will have already done theirs. We'll be able to take our votes on every article, not just the budget. I believe, with the position we've already stated about trying to work with Hubbardston, depending on the finance committee's position with that, and kind of bringing that assessment down like Hubbardston requested, that I would support that budget this year because we brought it down. We're trying to work and get some response. We've got to help the other towns. So we're bringing it down. We're not giving them exactly what they asked. We're already cutting it.
I'm looking for
So
the
this year,
1.4.
I'm just telling you, based on what I know today, you're probably gonna see that I'll support that budget pretty much like I'm gonna support the finance committee's budget. However they present it. You're not gonna see me fighting them on any one of their line items this year. Part of that, to me, it's surprising. It's a tough year for the budget. Most people might not understand that, but it's the people making these requests, and when you look constantly hear what's going on at the state level and the funding, it puts more burden on the local people in order to maintain certain levels of, and I think the school, you're not gonna fix with the budget. If you think there's an issue with the way the school operates, you're gonna have to fix it through the school committee. You're gonna have to replace school committee members. I'm not suggesting you do that, I'm not saying it's warranted. I don't want anybody to take that and say, I'm saying, create an upheaval of the school committee members. I'm just saying, if you really think the budget is an issue, you're not gonna fix it through the Board of Selectmen. You're gonna fix it through your school committee.
When the school committee came in here, I listened to them and realized our budget for our school team is governed by our school committee. And if our school committee won't go into that budget with the school administration and fight for us,
They were very clear they're fighting for the
Matt-
school. They were very
Matt
clear.
Brophy
Mark
said-
Brophy,
He said, it's the school committee that fights for your budget.
and so,
But we don't have people in the school committee who ally themselves with the town. They always ally themselves with the school,
They advocate for the school, not the town, yes.
Yeah, even though they happen to be representing the town of Barry, clearly their focus is representing the school. So it's kind
no,
of.
I think I don't think that's completely accurate. Because right now, you're identifying the school committee members that are elected as whether they're actually representing a town or a school district. And the truth is, they are representing the people that voted for them. And a lot of people in this town that have kids don't care the cost, they just want the best education. So they vote for someone they think is gonna fight for the money to give their kids the resources they need. So I don't think it's fair to say that they're not representing those that talk to them that come from Barry. But we all know most elected people rarely get to talk to both sides of your constituency. It's like one will talk to you because they think you care about what they think about, and the other one will never talk to you because they think you just disagree and it's not worth taking the time. So you never, that's not fair. It's not often you hear the counter argument with the people you hang with all the time. They're hanging with you because they already agree with you.
True.
So the school committee members may not be hearing as much of what Sam thinks, because Sam does not currently have children in school. But they may be listening to other parents that have children in school and thinking that that's more important than Sam. I'm not saying right or wrong, I'm just, so that's where my opinion, you were real close, but I just felt like you went a little too far, and so I just wanted a little counter discussion. I'm not saying you're wrong.
On a similar note, I had asked a question at our joint meeting on the closing for the school in New Braintree, and reiterate the question the other night with the school committee here, and they said they would follow up and get me an answer. I was wondering if either of you two have heard from the school when I ask how many of our students leave our town in school choice, because they tell us how many come in. I've asked twice now how many leave in school choice, and they didn't have the number at either of the two times we've met, and they promised they would get back to us. So I don't know if they have followed up with that, or maybe if we could ask them to do so, because it's a number, like I said.
There's a magic thing about that that's hard to track.
Not trying to be.
Homeschooling's not tracked.
Trying to be difficult, as I said, to the school and the school committee.
It's true.
But when we're asking questions and we get the runaround and an answer, it's hard to form a decision on an opinion we want to express publicly until we have these answers. And I think that's relevant to know how many of these kids from our town opt out of school choice, and how many of our teachers that teach in the school that live in town opt their children out of our school. I would hope none. If they are, that would concern me.
Well, that would be a good question to discuss at the town meeting.
No, please don't. We're gonna be there, we got issues to get through, Sam, please don't do that. Bring that up at a school committee meeting. Please,
All right.
please, okay, please.
If we're okay, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
I will second that motion.
Thank you.
Call for vote.
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Have a good one all. Anybody that hung out?